Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to Apply. All right, so today I have David Lindsay on the line. He's a coach, trainer, and public speaker at Phenom Leap. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Adam. I'm excited to share this time with you and hopefully give your guests something that they can take home and use right away.
All right, David. So what a great topic. So achieving peak performance, why being a CEO can be like training as an Olympian. So lots of business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives that listen to this, and they're looking for actionable tips and things that can help improve their lives. And I think that's exactly what you'll be supplying today. So I'm excited to get into this. And maybe just to get us started, tell us a little bit more about how you got involved in this business and leading you up to Phenom Leap.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I started off my life, I was always a very active kid. And as a result of that, I started playing rugby league, because I'm from over in Australia. So I'd like to say a lovely hello to all of you guys over there in the States. And this pandemic has really just given us the opportunity to open our horizons. So I'm just loving this whole situation, being able to speak from here over there. So I grew up playing rugby league. And I got signed as a 16-year-old to play with the representative teams over in South Sydney. They're one of the most famous rugby league teams. Russell Crowe is owner of South Sydney, so just to give a little bit of context to who they are. And I played rugby league and I suffered a knee reconstruction at 17 and then a second knee reconstruction playing rugby league at the age of 22. So I thought that my career as an athlete was over. I'd spent blood, sweat, tears, and years of honing my craft, all of it to be taken away from me. And as you can imagine, my life just got pulled out from underneath me. But there's so many skills that you can take from sports that can revert into the real world. But that was just the first little obstacle that I had to overcome, because it's all about learning from these obstacles and growing from it. So from there, I was a little guy, but I was very strong and very nuggety. And I actually got into arm wrestling, which is a odd sport to get into. But I was practicing and I was on my way over to America to go in some professional arm wrestling tournaments over there when I happened to snap my humerus in Corfu, a little island in Greece. And the humerus is the part between your elbow and your shoulder. So I used bad technique. I was about to win, and I twisted my body, and then boom, I heard a noise and it was so loud. And I actually thought I'd broken the bar because it sounded like a piece of wood getting snapped. And then I looked at my arm, and it was bent where it just shouldn't be bent. So yeah, it wasn't good. And I was on a round-the-world trip with my girlfriend at that time. Luckily, she stuck with me, and she's now my wife, and we have a lovely daughter as well. But that's a completely different story. She stuck with me through this. So I flew back from Corfu to Australia to get it operated on. Then when they operated on it, they hit a nerve in my arm when they put a plate in, and my arm went completely paralyzed. So as you can imagine, someone that's so much into sport, that's where they make their money, because I was also a personal trainer. Not being able to utilize your arm, my world just got completely taken from me. I couldn't train because my arm was paralyzed. I couldn't run because for the first little bit when they're setting the arm, you can't have the vibrations. And my life almost just spiraled. So from there, I was going up against a brick wall again and again and again. But I'm also very, very stubborn, and I wasn't going to let something like this beat me. So I did anything possible, and it was 4 months later when I started to get a little bit of movement. And when I got that little bit of movement, I called my mum, I called my girlfriend. I was so excited that it was all coming back. And then so I was still competitive. I was only 23, 24 at that point. And, you still have the competitive juices at that time. So I thought, why not try my hand at martial arts? So went in and I did Wing Chun Kung Fu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, kickboxing, submission wrestling, and ended up fighting in the cage as well. So I did all of those things. And it's really my life as a wrestler underneath my wrestling coach, which really helped me transition across from the athletic world to training people, from stay-at-home parents, managers, executives, CEOs, and Olympians, that really saw the opportunity to bring that across to the corporate world, because there's so many similarities between a sports team and a business team. So it was just really it was everything I've been through, the knee reconstruction, the broken arm, the fighting, the blood, sweat and tears in all those different elements. What could I extract from that to help in the corporate world? And yes, I've come up with a few models that I use that I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later.
Yeah, and so I do want to actually get into that. So what an amazing story, and thank you for sharing. I think it's just really inspirational. And I was watching your YouTube channel, and I definitely want people to go check that out. And we'll put all this stuff in the show notes. And it's just a remarkable story, and just an inspirational person in terms of what you've been able to accomplish and how you keep, helping people. And so what I wanted to talk about was just to switch gears a bit is your 5-step system. It's towards improved vitality in the workplace. So a lot of people, like as you mentioned earlier, COVID, all these other things that are going on, and like people are looking for help. They're looking for ways to improve morale. They're looking for ways just to, to be healthier just in general and to succeed. So tell us a little bit more about the system.
Yeah, well, I took this mostly from my life as fighting, and I'll run through and give a quick little explanation on each of the steps. So the first one is, like, imagine we're about to go into a fight or a game or into the boardroom or the place of work. There's that time just before a fight when the referee goes, fighter ready, and then boom, you have to be ready. So I teach different systems and different philosophies on how to create rituals to snap into action. Because you see all the time where people, they're walking, they don't have the right posture. They're walking with this almost weak, lethargic stride. And that leads to their performance as well. So a lot of people, I've heard the saying many times, I'm sure you have, probably your listeners have, don't talk to me till I've had my cup of coffee. We want to be able to create things that we snap into action. So that's things like listening to music, listening to educational, motivational things, positive self-talk, the way that you move, because emotion is led by motion. So doing the power poses, Superman posture. So just things that workers can do each and every day, right from the moment that they stop listening to this podcast, for the rest of their life. They can create rituals so they can snap into action at any point in time. So that's so that you don't waste.
And this stuff works. So, for example, like people that have heard of things like power poses, the Superman thing, like this stuff works. Like when somebody says that they don't, oh, is this going this, that? I'm like, no, do it. Like it works. It's proven. Like why would you do it?
100%, because there's research to back it up as well. Because I'll just demonstrate. So I'll word it because I'm doing it as I'm saying it. So I get everything right. So you want to have your feet a little bit wider than normal. You put your hands on your hips, you flare your elbows out, kick your chest up and look up. Not straight up, but at about a 30-degree angle. You hold that pose for as little as 2 minutes. It can help raise your testosterone while lowering your cortisol. It gets you into the alpha mindset. So if you need to perform something in front of in a boardroom, or like with me when I go and talk to people, I have to be in the right state, energetically, physically, emotionally. That's what I do at the back. I'm a very active person. So I like to do shadow boxing as well from my career when I'm fighting as well. Just different techniques to get you in the right state. And that's what we talk about with the first step, which is snapping into action. And then
let's go through some more of these steps.
Yeah, for sure. So like I get people when I do the talk as well, we stand up and we take up some space. Because even in America, I'm sure you guys have heard of the All Blacks, New Zealand rugby union team, where they do their haka. And when they do that, that gives me chills. And I couldn't imagine what it'd be like to be on the field there doing it with them, because they do something physical, they do something verbal, they do something spiritual, which changes them at their mental state. So that's what we're all about, is you do something physical, so you stand tall, you take up space, you take the Superman pose. Then what I like to get people to do is either slap their thighs or slap their chest, and then you do like a primal, yes! And I do that out the back before I come into a talk. Go, yes! And that changes you mentally. You don't necessarily, obviously at work, you don't walk in and go, yes, but you might use your door frame as a signal. Like, I like to touch either the sides of the doors or on top of the door, and it's like making an entrance into my place of work. I touch it and grace the place. And
that's great.
And also, like I said, the power of music. Music can really help pump you up, or it can help calm you down. And it's not for me to tell people what music to listen to, because it's different person to person to person. So
yeah, I can see that.
Some very simple things. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm in. And you see like sports teams that do that a lot of times, like in movies or something, like they hit a board, or not a board, but like a sign in the locker room or something else where everybody kind of does it in unison, or when they're running out of the locker room or something. Like that's where that all comes from. Or I should say that's where they're using the same types of techniques.
Yeah, and that's where, like, you look at Roger Federer, how he does his serve set. It's bounce, bounce, bounce. He picks his undies out of his bum every time he serves the ball. Now, I don't know. I'd put my bottom dollar on. There's nothing wrong with his undies, but this is just his ritual that he does. He does undie, hair behind the ear, and then he tosses it and serves it. Because you see people do this and people go, that's just superstitious rubbish. And it's not. It's ritualistic, and it's been shown to work. And like you were talking about, there's a famous, the Virginia Tech gridiron or football team, you call it, how they have their music with Metallica, Enter the Sandman. Like, that is just insane. I'd recommend people just go and search that on YouTube, and they hit the Blarney Stone, and they've got all the players, and they've got a little saying on there as well to all the players before us and that are coming after us. So they're doing this for them, and then the whole crowd. I don't know how the stadium's still standing, but they're just moving with it. The energy that they supply with that is just insane. I can feel it all the way over here in Australia by that. So it's just, it works. It works.
It's awesome. And so let's see I've been getting so into this. I got my Superman pose going. I stood up. I'm doing all these things. I lost track of what step we're on. What step are we on, David? I was getting too into it.
First one. It is, and it's so easy. And that's why I take my philosophies from sport. So it's, snapping into action, rituals that you can do to snap into action. Then the second step is we're not designed to work 24/7, 365. So it's about nap. And what that is, so it's being able to have your lunch break. Because a lot of people, they go, oh, I'm working my way through lunch again. In Australia, especially in Sydney where I'm from, people see it as a badge of honour that they're doing their thing for the company or they're doing their thing for their business. They work their way through lunch again. Whereas I see that as poor time management, poor energy management, and poor management in general. If they can't do everything that they're allocated to in the time they've allocated it, maybe they need to offload some stuff. But there's studies that shows that you're 16 to 20% more productive if you go for a lunch break. And when I say going for a lunch break, I don't mean sitting down on having a cigarette. I mean going for a walk with someone outside, getting the blood pumping, because that's what a lot of people don't do. They don't move enough. And energy is one of the rare things. The more that you do it, the more that you get. Like beforehand, I was saying how I'm an early riser, and I get up and I'm at the gym at 4 o'clock. And people go to me, but aren't you tired? And go, no. Going to the gym at that time gives me energy for the rest of the day. But nap is also about being able to switch off from work. So like I like to work in short, intense chunks. And there's a technique called the Pomodoro technique. And this has been scientifically proven to help you retain more information and be more productive in a given time. So I'll just briefly explain that to your listeners. What it is, you set a timer and you set it for, it's only relatively short, 25, 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
During that time, you have no phone calls, no emails, no distractions. You just concentrate on one thing, just one thing, and you do that. You do that for that 25, 30 minutes. Then when the alarm goes off, you get up, you move, you go for a little bit of a walk, you get blood pumping, you talk to people, you make those phone calls, those emails, and then you come back and you do it again and again and again. So you work in that cyclic format. And also with nap, it's about being able to go to sleep properly at night. Because I know a lot of people that I've worked with, they have issues. They've got things racing through their mind in the afternoon, in the night, that they just can't let go of, and they don't get a restful sleep. So if you don't get a restful sleep, you don't wake up rested. So what can you do to wake up rested so that your batteries are fully charged? And there's a few techniques that I like to do. There's one called it's actually an effect, the Zeigarnik effect. And many people haven't heard of that before. But what that is, you'll see, especially soap operas, they use it brilliantly. On a Friday afternoon, they'll leave a car's gone off the edge of the cliff, but you don't know what's happened. Do they survive? Do they crash? What happened? So they've opened a loop, but they haven't closed it. So your mind is constantly thinking about it and can't wait to get back on the Monday to close that loop. So it's like with the way that you can use that in work is I get people to have a checklist system so they can check things off as they're closing down the day. So it might be a 15-minute thing that they have at the end of the day and check it off. Have I answered all emails? Yes. If I haven't, what do I have to do now? And what can I do first thing tomorrow morning? And set it all up so that you're ready to go tomorrow morning. But then you tick that off. Yes, I've done all emails. Have I done all this? Yes. Is everything closed out nicely? Is it clean? Is it this? Is it that? And you just tick it off so that once you've finished everything, then I like to do, because I do martial arts, I like to do a little bow as I leave, just like you bow when you go off the mats when you're fighting. And then that's what I do to check off so that it's not racing through your mind. Like, how often have you gone to the shopping center and you go, did I turn the gas off? Did I leave that thing on the hot plate? Did I do this, that? If you do that with work, you're not allowing your mind to truly relax and rest. So that's just a little thing that we do. And I also love using guided meditations as I'm going to sleep, because that way when you're listening to it, you're concentrating on what they're doing, concentrating on breathing, because breath work is a big thing that people severely underestimate. Because even though it's something that we do all the time, the majority of people don't breathe properly. They do short, shallow breaths. And that just increases your stress levels. Being able to slow it down really helps with that. That's nap.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, David, you are what I want. I know we just barely scratched the surface on your program and what you're offering, but we're about out of time on this episode. But I want my audience. I mean, I know I'm all fired up about what you're doing. I know they are too. They're listening to this and they're like, man, this guy, what? So this is what I want you to do, David. If somebody's listening to this and they want to connect and they want to learn more about your programs, about how you're helping people, especially in the workplace and otherwise, I mean, what's the best way for people to follow up and to connect? And once you let us know, we'll also put that in the show notes for our audience so they can just check it out.
100%. So I'm quite active on LinkedIn. So just look for me under David Lindsay. LinkedIn, and my pretty picture will come up. And I'm sure you have the link to that you'll put in the notes as well. Also, check me out at Phenom Leap, PhenomLeap.com.au, and follow us on YouTube at Phenom Leap, because that we give them little bits each and every week. We upload a video that's educational, motivational, and inspirational to give you tools that you can use straight away.
Wonderful. Well, David, again, been a pleasure having you on the show today and learning more about your background and all the great things you're doing over at Phenom Leap. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time joining us, we bring on mission-based entrepreneurs, executives, and experts and share their background, share why they do what they do, like what gets them up in the morning, what gets them fired up. So if you're into that kind of content, we definitely hope you would subscribe and come back and be a return listener and visitor, because we have many more mission-based business owners, entrepreneurs, and experts coming on, and we don't want you to miss a thing. And David, thanks again. It really has been a pleasure having you on the show. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me as a guest. I've had a blast during this time.